So for 14 years, you and your sister Micah ran a successful Anusara studio in Denver, Colorado. And this was your livelihood. Your classes were full and thriving. You were a really popular Denver teacher. And then in 2012, you began to explore the alignment of what is now the Bowspring interpersonal practice and discovered that this was a direction that you really wanted to pursue. Because the alignment of the Bowspring is pretty different from Anusara and anything, and especially Anusara, were you wary of sharing these revelations with your community? Even though it was dissolving, there was still a strong community here.
Very much.
And I mean, just considering the financial consequence, the potential financial consequences, the impact of your reputation, like I just feel like that's such a huge shift. And were you doubtful? Like, how did you navigate that?
Yeah. So I was grateful to have the support of my sister, my mom, my beloved teacher, John Friend. That was major. I think if they had each told me, you know what, we think you're really off, then I probably would have been a closet bowspringer. And never, just only kept the practice for myself and like behind closed doors where nobody knew. But because I felt their support and because I was also, it's interesting because like I shared previously, the bowspring felt like a wake up, right? When it started when it started simmering and percolating into what it is now, in the beginning it felt like just a whisper, like, wake up, wake up, wake up. And the universe is kind in ways that we don't realize during the time, but then with hindsight, you think, oh my gosh, the wake up could have been so much more harsh and brutal. In this instance, it felt like, because in the beginning, when I went to John Friend to ask him, what do you think about these alignment ideas that I have? What do you think about me lifting my tail and my glutes instead of tucking my tail and descending my glutes? I was thinking only about, what if I did this for me? Can I do this for me? I want to do this for me on some level. And it wasn't about, I want to create a technology that is universal in its application and that all people of all ages, all sizes, all religions, all colors, all ethnicities could benefit from. I think it would have been too much. Instead, it was like, can I
do this for me?
Can I feel good? Can I do this because it makes me feel good? So that was a lucky aspect of how the wake up started happening because it was personal first. So then I wasn't so scared to be experimental. And then once I started experimenting and I recognized how much power, I recognized how much balance, I recognized I could do things I had never been able to do in the 14 years prior with other methods, the standard model. Then I was almost unabashed in my desire to share it with the other people that had shared this path of mind-body connection, of self-development, of studentship. I was so, like when you open a present or when you stumble upon something extraordinary, the very first thing you want to do is share it. And you don't necessarily think about the repercussions. You just want to share something beautiful. And so had I known how much it would impact my reputation, how much it would impact my financial well-being, maybe I wouldn't have been big enough or brave enough. But I guess I didn't think about it. I was so excited to share it. I knew that everyone else who had shared the path with me up to that point, we all were pointing at the same things. I want to be a better person. I want to feel strong in my body. I want to be free from pain. I want to be free to be able to offer my truest gifts, And I just thought, oh my gosh, I've stumbled onto something that makes that all the more possible. I have to tell everybody. And, there were great losses. There still are. And, it was so interesting because as the news started getting out, I made immediate enemies.
Wow. People with not even trying it?
Well, people that I'd never even met.
Oh, interesting.
People who hadn't tried it. I mean, even by us inviting John Friend to come here and to practice here and to heal here in Denver at Vital, I made immediate enemies with people that I never knew. And so then I don't know, I guess I just had a heart to heart, and it was like, haters gonna hate, and it's okay. This person doesn't know me. This person doesn't feel my heart. They don't know my soul. They don't know what my intent is, and yet they feel compelled to hate me, to slander my name, to, try to vehemently oppose this movement that now we're seeing is a part of, it's a part of all movements now, in the sense of the primal movement, functional movement, ergonomics, all, animal movement. All of these things started coming to be when Bowspring was being born. And so from my perspective, consciousness is planted like seeds, like an awakening in the consciousness. It's not just one person who says, oh, well, what about this? It's a smattering of seeds that get put out all over, and there's these wake up, these little lights that it's like, whoa, and then it becomes just part of what it was, or how it is going to then be. And so, I don't feel alone now either in this industry of wanting to be more agile, more flexible, more strong, but also more connected to myself and more capable and more prepared to meet anything, any challenge. And so it's just funny the way that things rolled out, because I was really lucky, and it ended up being a lot easier than one might think. And the loss, because I think we probably lost around 60% of our clientele. I remember in 2012 there were 47 teachers at Vital, and now I think we're about 10 dedicated Bowspring teachers. And so to me, oftentimes when there needs to be change, the first thing that happens is a dying off to get back to the very heart of the matter. And so there's a shedding, a sloughing, there's death before there's new life. And I'm sad for that, and I wish that didn't have to be, but that's also the natural way of things. And so I recognize that, it's okay to have things get smaller before they can expand again, and that's natural. And one thing that's really beautiful, and I made this meditation for myself, is that as clients started to find, standard model practices outside of Vital, once Vital became dedicated to Bowspring, I just always envisioned the door to be a revolving one. And whenever someone would say, I need to go, I'm gonna dedicate to Pilates now, or I need to go and I want to do this now, or whatever, I can't align with you right now in this Bowspring. The ones that chose to even have the conversation, most of them just decided not to come back. But those ones, I just always wanted to let them know, like, look, if you ever want to come back and you ever want to try this dance again, that door is revolving. So don't think that when you go out it shuts and can never be open. I'm going to keep it open, and I'm going to recognize that everything that's meant to be, it will be. And that this is all part of the natural order of things, and that we are experiencing a death in order to more fully live. I'm okay with that.
Which is such a strong example of what it is that we practice in Radiant Heart with the Bowspring. It's like this experience of a deeper level of trust, like filling up through the back of the ribs and lifting and trusting that things are happening on time, and if it's meant to be, it will be. And I'm really grateful that you received little whispers and it was gentle for you in your experience, because if you had received it in another way, maybe we wouldn't be sitting here talking, and maybe this practice wouldn't have touched so many people around the globe right now, supporting them getting out of pain and helping us wake up to this other level of consciousness.
Yeah, I feel like I was supported every step of the way. It's not to say that it was pain-free. And I still, sometimes I still recognize, like, I'll see someone on the street that it's like they used to be my student, and they'll be sheepish and shy away from me, or but my grand message is love. And I will, from my perspective, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, you know what, I have a better idea, it actually functions more efficiently than Bowspring, or is more so in line with what you're saying you want to do, I'm open for the upgrade. You know, if I have an Apple 5 iPhone and someone says, you know, look, the 10 just came out, I'm always going to, actually I have the 6. But I always, you know, as far as my body, mind, health, I'm so open to the upgrade. I want the upgrade, and I'm gonna be a promoter of the upgrade. And I think that all of us, the more open we are to this constance in our evolution, then the more that we don't limit ourselves, you know, to times of past, or, you know, even like to limit ourselves to do a tradition that has felt familiar and has felt good, but that doesn't necessarily bring us to our highest potential. I hope that we can stay open, and that we can keep on evolving and keep on asking the questions that bring us to a higher awareness and understanding of who we are and what we're meant to do.
Hallelujah, sister. Hallelujah. Okay, one last question.
Cool.
Because I'm just so curious. The Bowspring has been wildly successful in Europe.
Yeah.
Hello to all of our European friends. We love you. And I'm curious at why do you think the European culture is so receptive to the Bowspring concepts?
Yeah. So Europe and Asia.
In Asia.
Yeah. As far as like where is it really taking off, and the Caribbean, which is so funny. It's like everywhere but home. Not true. There are there are definite placeholders, space holders for the Bowspring. We have studios, you know, around the nation, and pioneering spirits and, you know, rebellious hearts that have said, okay, I'm going to join this movement because it makes me feel better, and I want to offer the best to my students. So I am grateful for all of our national supporters. The Europeans, to me, if I could make, you know, because every country is so unique,
Sure.
but if I could make broad strokes and talk about some generalizations I've seen from country to country, there's a deep desire for health. People are pointing in that direction. They recognize that, you know, we're struggling, and the struggle is worldwide. There's something about Europeans that feels more willing to do extreme measures in the name of health. And also, there's more of a sense of collectiveness than in Europe than there is in the States. Even though we're both Western, you know, we're both westernized, there's more of a sense of team and working together and feeling a part of something that seems like is a little bit distinctive in the States, where here, you know, and I think it's because of capitalism and that we're so pressured to make our, you know, our individual expression, you know, noticed, that, you know, everyone is just looking for attention, hungry for attention, in the form of money, in the form of energy, in the form of likes, you know. And so it feels like there's not as much capacity for us as Americans to work as a team as maybe there is more of a collective. And by far in Asia, you know, the Asians are, well, hands down the best students I've worked with. Mindfulness, accountability, and compassion. As far as, you know, you could meet any person in Japan, and that's what they've been taught from the very time of birth. And so for them, the 3 pillars of our practice, the 3 philosophical pillars, are already very much a part of their daily life. And so I just have noticed that it's been wild how much it's taken off. And, you know, and it also makes sense that that it would be more or less tainted by the scandal, because, you know, John is obviously, we're both American, you know, and so it's like where the hurts were most concentrated, I think it's taking longer to heal. But I do pray that more and more people, and what my experience is that more and more people are open to.
Definitely.
I mean, you know, just this morning we hosted a class of a teacher that hadn't taught here in 10 years, but came back and did his own research and came back and realized that a lot of the things that we're talking about are really cutting edge, that they are, it is what all of the, all of the physiologists and the exercise physiologists are focusing on. Fascia is a buzzword. People are waking up. We're waking up. And so then I think, now it's been 6 years since the scandal. And I just pray that more and more people are able to find forgiveness for themselves and for each other, and that we can practice beginner mind like they do so easily in Asia, where it's like, okay, let me start from scratch and let me take another look at this whole thing. I mean, that was what it took John Friend 8 months to do, to take a look at this from the perspective of mathematics, geometry, science, biology, from every different, he had this faceted gem, and he just kept on turning it and studying it from every angle, so that he could have, he realizes that it's the biggest shift in his view, his life view, than ever. And so when the view shifts,
everything shifts.
Because you realize the way you saw it before, you see it new now, and the new sight opens your eyes to other details you never realized. You're able to make new relationships. You're able to open where before you would close. So I'm very positive, and also I am patient. I will wait. And the revolving door continues to spin, and people, they're coming back to now what seems logical. Isn't it funny? Because just a few years ago, when I started talking about these things to people who were very knowledgeable, they were like, you're crazy. And now it's like, oh, well, that's logical. Speaking to somebody who's never done the bowstring before, what is it like to fill up your ribs? Well, I never did that before. Well, what does it feel like? Feels like I'm more free, feels like I'm lighter, feels like, so it's like, it's in some way, it's kind of like a little bit of a joke. There's a little bit of a parody, because, you shift your view. It's like having on a pair of sunglasses and taking off that color of lens and then changing to this one, and you're like, oh my gosh, the things I didn't see, how did I miss that? Now this color, it seems so logical. Why did it take me so long? And so I have no judgment about the time that it takes for that process to occur. I just realize that it's happening in more and more circles around the world. And so I do believe, because my main goal for the sharing of this message and, going out on a limb and risking my friendships and my financial well-being and my reputation, was, because I did believe that ultimately it could help people. And so I want this to be the understanding of our physiology. I don't want the lie of that your bones hold up your body to be taught anymore. I want the understanding of tensegrity and the way that, fascia is this incredibly alive conscious network that is our protective superhero suit in the world, and that, that this is part of textbooks. This is what children learn. They learn that their bones are never touching. Their bones are not touching unless there's an imbalance. They learn that they have this infinite capacity to create uniform tone, and that they hold their bones, that each one of us has a chance to hold ourselves with respect and with honor. And it's when we hold ourselves that way, then that goodness can only be exponentially demonstrated outwardly. So yeah, Paris, it's a blessing that this is where we are, and this is what we get to be talking about. And I don't have any regrets, and I'm just so grateful that everything happened the way that it did, so that we can start to open our eyes to new awarenesses of ourselves and how this body-mind really works.
Absolutely. And what it is that we can achieve when we come together from an embodied place. Because I see you as such a strong leader, because you're holding your back body, you're lifting your front body, all sides are toned and open. And it's from that place where one can be an example and a demonstrator, and I want to do that, and I gotta lift my back body, and that inspirator, almost the inspirer, is having a ripple effect, and people all over the world are being touched by this. And it's a wonderful and humble honor to carry the torch with you and to share this message of I gotta have my own back and I gotta lift my own ribs and the accountability, and then we come together. And that's what we're experiencing as a global community, is just all of these different friendships perking up or being created all over the world because of this method. But then it goes beyond that. It goes so much more beyond that we recognize that we're actually shape-shifting ourselves and opening that opportunity to others, whoever wants to listen, whoever wants to open that.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah.
So true. I feel that, one of the main things that we've taught about in the Bowspring, as far as the philosophical focus, is that we have to collaborate, we have to work together, we have to create that synergistic systems approach within ourselves. Body, mind, fascia, everything has to come together to create this symphony or harmony. But that also in today's world, for me, it's all about localization. We got to go back to the heart of our circle, our sphere of influence, or the place where we can create the most good. And there we have to we have to become more so sustainable, self-sustaining, so that all of us can thrive. And the vision of the Bowspring is all about networks. It's all about systems approach, and so and that's also not so popular these days, ironically enough. But in turn, the practice and the community that's being born of this practice are people who really they want to support each other, and they also, I think that comes from, because if you feel supported,
You want to support.
You want to support. Yeah. If you feel lacking, if you feel small, if you don't feel supported, then you definitely cannot be generous with your energy, and you might even try to tear someone else down that you think is big. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So you can judge, so I think that what is the common denominator amongst our the Europeans, the Asians, the people in the Caribbean, the United States, is that those who are really into this practice, they start to feel that, oh my gosh, I am supported, and it's me who started that whole process. And so there's that feeling of fullness that then renders to a natural generosity and a natural desire to come together and to unify. So yeah, I have high hopes for the way that this continues to evolve and unfold.
Me too. Absolutely. Thank you so much for you and for sharing your story and your light with the world. And what is inspiring to me again and again is that if you didn't listen to this intuition, if you didn't play big, then you would have there would be so many people really at a disadvantage, because this has helped so many people, including my life. So that's just a continual inspiration to me of no, it's really important to listen to these nudges and to continue to show up and be accountable. And so I really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paris.
Yes,
yeah, it's
absolutely.
my joy, my blessing, and my honor.
Yes. So we can I'll have all of the Bowspring links at the bottom of this video where you can learn more about it. And thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.